Let's get you on over to the Saturday special. This is AM 1080 KSCO.
They say you can't choose your parents, but in my case, I won the lottery because I can't imagine anyone being blessed with better, more loving parents than I. Many of you know my mom Kay from her many years of her bullseye commentaries, but what I remember most about my dad Bernard is that no matter how grim things seemed at a bad time, he was always the rock who would say, "Don't worry, everything will work out and we'll be just fine." And suddenly, magically, I would feel warm and secure inside, and my worries would disappear. It occurred to me that given these times, we could use a little of my dad's type of positivity and reassurance. So we will try to deliver it on the next KSCO special this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, right here on Let Me Leave You with these words from the late, great Dave Allen, the Nighthawk Radio, FM 104.1 and AM 1080 KSCO.
All right, people and sheeple, and all you weirdos that get it through osmosis, guess what? All you naysayers, we're all going to die. Oh, the economy. Oh, the trouble. Shut up. Look around. We live where the food and the money is, so shut up. Yeah, you to say, oh, you want to trade places? Everybody out there complaining, bitch, about it. Nobody will trade places. I bet look, one person would trade places with me in my wheelchair. I doubt it. So shut up.
Good morning, a brighter day is here. Good morning, may we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today you know on KSCO Radio.
Now, nothing harmful was meant by all those shut-ups, but Dave was a pretty passionate guy. I'm sure those of you who remember the Nighthawk on KSCO will agree. What a guy he was. And I just happened to run across those words when I was writing the promo for the show today. So I figured, hey, this is perfect. This is perfect. Got to use it. Anyhow, stay with us, gang, for the next 2 hours. I think you'll be happy you did, okay?
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
We were talking about you all behind your back yesterday, day before yesterday. I'm talking about all you people out there, all you listeners to KSCO. And I was having a three-way conference call with our station general manager, Michael Olson, and our director of digital media operations, Jonty McCollier. And we were talking about what we could do to make our station do something nicer than normal for the listeners and especially for the advertisers, without whom we could not be here. And a lot of things were discussed, were thrown back and forth. And it occurred to me that since I didn't have a Saturday special, that, hey, let's have this conversation on the air. Would you guys be into it? And they both agreed. So here we are. I'm at World Headquarters far away, but here is Michael Olson. I think I think you're now. Now I can lock you in. Michael, are you there?
I'm here.
Good.
Where's here? I'm here.
Okay, good. You're there. And now I'm going to lock you in. I already did, so we can't accidentally hang up on you. And Jonty. Hi, Jonty.
Hey, MZ.
Hey, you sound a little better, so wherever there is for you, we have a better connection. But let me lock you in. Okay. Hey, Josh Stevens, I need your help in locking Jonty in because
of course.
You can't do it either?
No, I can. Give me one moment.
Okay.
3, 2, there it is.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I don't know why I could lock one but not the other. But anyhow, so guys, hey, are you as sick as I am about hearing in these trying times or these challenging times? And are you as sick as I am about hearing we're all in this together? And are you as sick as I am of hearing we're going to get through this?
Is that a personal question?
Yeah, that's the personal question for all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is being overplayed like a record.
Yeah, I mean, can't people come up with something different? Well, that's what we're going to try to do today in these challenging times. Oh, God. So, anyhow, I've gotten a lot of compliments from emails and from callers actually on the Saturday special. Saying how much they appreciate KSCO, and we need to let everybody know how much we appreciate the listeners, because KSCO ain't nothing without you guys, right? And the more you listen and the more you participate, the better a radio station we will become. Is that about it for the show, you guys? Can we add anything to that? There's like another hour and 50 minutes left.
You know, I was thinking about what you said earlier when you were introducing the show, and you invited the people to listen, and you said, I think you will be happy that you did. But what happens if they're not?
Exactly. God, then what do we do?
Then what happens is they take their finger and they punch the button, and we're dead. So we better do something to entertain and inform them.
Okay, good. Now, I feel so ashamed here because we have a mystery guest who's not really a mystery guest because he's on all the time at the beginning of the Saturday special, and that's good old Dave. Dave Michaels, are you there?
I am here, MZ. It's good to hear you guys.
You're the one who's on the air way more than all of us because you do Flight 1080 for 3 hours each weekday. Mm-hmm. So you're the most experienced broadcaster by far of all of us. And so tell us what you've been up to. You run the Dave Cave, you know, which gets these great supplements to people in our audience so that our audience is propped up and they can continue to be our audience.
Right, because
by being healthy, right?
If they're not alive, then we can't sell any products to them, MC. We need to make sure that they stay healthy, stay alive. And, you know, MZ, with the coronavirus, I mean, we've all heard this. Out in the Dave Cave, when people do come out to pick up their products, nobody is really freaked out because most of the customers, most of the people who take these supplements understand that as long as you have a healthy immune system, you're going to probably do fairly well. A strong immune system is absolutely essential. Now, you could be doing other things too to help increase your or decrease your risks of contracting this disease, but you know, take care of your immune system. That's why everybody shows up to the Dave Cave. Most of them are pretty cool and calm about it. They're not freaking out there.
Yeah, and now you have a delivery service. Are you doing all of it personally, or do you have some help with that?
I'm doing it all personally for right now. A $10 delivery fee and another $10 you get it delivered in a shiny new KSCO shopping bag. These are beautiful bags, MZ. And then we also have some KSCO bandanas coming in too, so this way we can make some face masks with them.
Hey, that's what a great idea.
Yeah.
And so what's the farthest you've delivered to?
Farthest I've delivered to in South County or South Monterey County, I think, was Carmel.
Well, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't get too much better than that. I mean, from a consumer's point of view, not having to go out and because people can still do that. They can make arrangements with you to meet you at the Dave Cave. Sure. They don't come in, but you just hand them their products and they, you know, or hand you the.
And I'm always in Watsonville, so if you want to catch me early in the daytime, you can catch me in South County any weekday.
Right.
218-5726, I should mention, MZ. 218-KSCO is the phone number. That's 218-KSCO.
And that's good for texting and
good for
voice,
texting.
Right?
It's good 24 hours a day. It's good for voicemail. You can call that number anytime, anywhere. You can text 218-5726.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Hey, quick before you get back to work at the Dave Cave, or just stay there. Stay there in the studio if you want to. Then let me ask you. So your Flight 1080 is 15 hours. Well, I guess 14 hours because on Fridays we have Michael Harrison's rap program for the last hour. Right. What are some of the things that you've covered in these trying times?
Well, what we try to do, MC, is people who listen have probably noticed this pattern. The first hour we run a press conference either from the president, the governor, or the Santa Cruz County health officer, Gail Newell. And then the second hour we cover local, mostly coronavirus news, but it's local news. And then the third hour is when we cover the other stuff, the lighter stuff, the national, whatever it is. But the first hour is always, as of right now, coronavirus information, official coronavirus information, because there's so much misinformation out there, it's ridiculous. So you'll get something official during the entire first hour of Flight 1080. The second hour, you'll get local coronavirus information. The third hour, we cover whatever the heck we want.
Great. Okay, Dave. You do a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, MC. I'll be out at the Dave Cave until 2 p.m. every Saturday from 10 to 2.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Jaunty. Hi, Jaunty.
Hi, MZ.
I think you've been, the tone of your daily updates is getting a little less freaked out. Am I wrong or am I right?
There's been two general concepts that I've been hoping to convey. It's a classic journalism. You try and there is this editorialization going on where I'm trying to point to something, but I'm using facts. And the two things that I've been trying to point to is that if you look at daily fatalities in the United States, it's about 11 or 12 times as many per day as the flu in a normal year. So.
Oh wow, Jaunty! You're
not as bad as the flu.
We appreciate that your connection is good, but we don't appreciate that you're cutting in and out. It's terrible. So maybe it might be better under the circumstances for you to use your cell phone, unless you don't get good service where you are. What do you think?
I mean, I can use my cell phone happily. Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Why don't you call back on the cell phone, and then we'll because that's just my opinion here, that it's more irritating to have to listen to you cutting in and out than in a lesser quality frequency. So anyhow, Michael Olson.
I am here.
You sure are. Okay, so emergencies. This is traditionally
emergency. What is the emergency?
Well, the emergency is that we're locked down. I can't remember this any time in my life. Can you in yours?
Of course not. There has not been
any
time like this in our lives.
So when I say emergencies are typically and traditionally where KSCO shines its brightest, at least in the past, and we hope we can continue that tradition. And
we have been.
Yes, yeah, and so how do we do it? How do we shine even brighter? How do we make our listeners and our advertisers in particular, without whom the radio station could not exist, how do we help them out? How do we go the extra mile for them?
Well, I think the job is essentially the same, because the more valuable we make our radio station for listeners, the more valuable it becomes for advertisers. So it's just one job, and all we have to do is feed our community with local news and talk. That's all we have to do, because where else can you get it?
I can't think of any place to get local news and talk that's interactive and live and uncensored and this kind of stuff. So,
we try to filter it to the extent that we don't allow people to use the 7 words, which nobody knows because you can't say them.
Or you
But
can't
other
find,
than that,
or you can't find them anywhere either.
unless you look up George Carlin. But at any rate, you know, it's the community talking with itself. We hear things. What do they mean? One of the most interesting things I've heard with respect to this made in China pandemic is that Santa Cruz County has the flattest curve, one of the flattest curves in the country.
And I was very surprised to read that, because I've been hearing people complain about some of the arrogant partier type people who refuse to take the lockdown seriously. So it's sort of the last thing I would have expected, right?
So don't you think that's a wonderful puzzle?
Yeah.
What is it about Santa Cruz County that makes us directly opposite with respect to curves than New York City, which has probably one of the steepest curves?
Well, the density of population is the big answer there.
What do New Yorkers share that makes them so vulnerable? There's two things that really stand out to me.
Closeness, by being packed in like sardines everywhere,
Yeah. But what do they share while being packed in like sardines?
The virus.
Okay, Rima Anthony from Cypress Chiropractic pointed this out, and it really speaks to a possible reason why we have such a flat curve. But if you think about New York City, they are all packed in. 1,000 people live in a little tiny apartment, almost, but where they're all packed in and compressed. And in that situation, what do they share? One thing they share is air, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, everybody is sharing the same air. And what's in that air? Bugs. And so that's where you pick up a lot of the contagion. But there's something else that New Yorkers have in common that is really a eye-opener for me. And that is that they all share a vitamin D deficiency because they never get any sun.
Wow.
And what happens when you have a vitamin D deficiency? You become vulnerable to all of this stuff, and it's a terrible deficiency. If you to do a search about vitamin D3 deficiencies, you go, oh my goodness. Now, what do we have a lot of in Santa Cruz? People walking around in the sun.
Hey, I think you got it. Now that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but that was a suggestion put into my head by Rima Anthony over at Cypress Chiropractic as we were discussing on the phone, and she was pointing that out. And I was thinking, well, yes. And if you look at all the other real hot spots, like Pittsburgh and Detroit and those places where people live in big cities and live in the cement jungle and they just don't get out. Now, you look at Santa Cruz and people are out walking their dog, walking their children outside. And this whole notion about closing down the public beaches and the parks, and I don't know. I'm not so sure.
Well, it's only through the 15th, which is just a few days from now, but... So
that's what they say.
You think that's going to change, Joss?
I mean, anything's possible at this point. I mean, we've had a continued rolling deadline for this shelter in place. Like, it just keeps getting extended further and further. So, I mean, I wouldn't leave that off the table.
I won't either. You're right. But I think somewhere I've heard Gail, whatever her name is, the public health officer of Santa Cruz, who made this decision and apparently has the power to do that. I somehow remember her saying, look, I hate to do this and it's only going to be temporary or something. So that's what I'm predicting, that it will be lifted and people will be able to go back to the beach after the 15th.
Yeah, but I also heard in some parts of that will also be extended, like dog parks, for example, would still continue to face the ban. Other places, any of these other places that have been known to see high tourist traffic even before the holiday rolls around. I think I heard something about that ban wanting those provisions to be extended beyond the much of Passover deadline. that was originally proposed.
Well,
so not all.
good
So
chance.
yeah, not all of it would be gone, or not all of it would be undone, but most of it would.
Right. Well, we're looking for extraordinary ways that KSCO can help the community and the advertisers, certainly on KSCO. And we're going to open the phone lines to people who have those suggestions, and we're going to duly note them today. 831-479-1080 is the phone number to call if you want to go on the air with us with those suggestions or observations or whatever. Or you
May I do a quick follow-up?
Sure. But one sec. MZ at KSCO.com if you want to, contribute via email your suggestion or comments or whatever. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking with respect to what can we do to bring more sunshine into our programming, and really that's exactly what I believe, the vitamin D3 is bringing more sunshine into people's lives. And that's what we do with local news and talk, is we bring sunshine into the things that are happening to us.
And
what could be more valuable than that?
Yeah, and so we will be sprinkling more. And now this is, you can't really see this. You just have to take our word for it, that we're going to be sprinkling more and more vitamin D3 into our programming. For your enjoyment. All right, it looks like we have a caller about where the food will be shared. That must be Keith McHenry, so let's put Keith on.
Yeah. MZ, what a great
Keith.
show. Thanks, man.
Thank you for the kind words here. So.
Yeah. So we're and it's so beautiful that you're trying to get out the word of what's positive. So, we've been sharing every day since the 14th of March. When we started they didn't even have social distancing at the time, but we had set up our own social distancing because my girlfriend is an employee who got trained at Good Samaritan Hospital about these issues. And so we were on top of it at the beginning. And so we are currently, we've been sharing, like I say, every day. And today and tomorrow, we will be sharing the food at the corner of Laurel and Front Street, because the amount of people coming to our location we were at this week is just too great to fit in at the parking lot.
Now, yeah. Keith, how are you able to do all that? You're head of a co-founder of Food Not Bombs, which is has grown into quite the national organization, and I don't know if it's international or not, but
yeah, it's international, and what we're doing, like in places like Philippines and Germany and stuff, is unbelievable. South Africa, we got this massive program there. We got this huge thing going on in Sofia, Bulgaria. So yeah, we are everywhere on Earth, and we've been communicating about best practices amongst each other.
Well, so tell us how does that work? How do you distribute food and conform to the social distancing? How do you do that?
Well, we do a number of different things. First of all, we put the 6-foot marks like you see when you enter, a grocery store. We put them on the sidewalk or on the parking lot, depending on where we are. And then we take these big yellow lugs that were donated from Trader Joe's, and we place them around our entire food program. And then we put caution tape around that. And then we have a monitor that keeps everybody at 6 feet. And then I yell out, like, you have to be 6 feet apart unless you're having sex with each other. Unless you're having sex with the guy in front of you, you got to be 6 feet apart. And everybody laughs, and it's made it so, people are relaxed about it, and they're very, very good about it. And people are finally, we almost never have to say anything. Everybody just lines up at 6 feet and follows all the marks. And so that's been very, very good. And then we have only 2 people in our distribution because we have 2 6-foot tables. And that's an easy mark for the 2 chairs. And everybody has to wait until we acknowledge them. They come up, and we put the food in what they want, and then we hand it to them. And there's no retouching any piece of any of the compostable plates that we have or any of that. Once you touch it, you have it whether you want it or not. Same thing with our book distribution. We have a sign that says, take only what you touch. And we have somebody watching that. We take all the books out face up so you can read them. And see, the reason this is important is that there's no electricity for people that live outside right now. There's actually no hand washing except for at Food Not Bombs right now. There's no fresh water unless you buy it like at CVS or Walgreens. Or maybe New Leaf or something. But the reality is that many people come to us and say, we are the only water. We are definitely the only hand washing that is reliable. And we're practically the only food for like at least several hundred people right now. Because,
so do you need any kind of a ticket for the food, or do you just serve anybody who shows up?
We serve anyone that shows up. And, of course, because the evictions are already starting, mostly from fears that the tenant has COVID-19, whether it's proven or not. And people are already, because people have been laid off and they can't afford their rent anymore. And it's very, not everybody. The law around no evictions is completely impossible to ascertain, so it's easy for landlords to kick people out, even though they allegedly can't do that, but it's very confusing. So tenants have one view of that, landlords have another view. And so we're seeing particularly a lot of restaurant workers are now standing in line with us because if you were a waiter,
really?
You don't have any work, yeah. So we have a lot of that. We're desperate for a downtown kitchen. We are trying. The county took over the Veterans Memorial Building, which, and if you probably are aware, the CDC has very strongly urged the emptying of all shelters, that is one of the most dangerous things you can do is place people inside of a shelter together. And we've already seen that there's a massive crisis in San Francisco from that. And this has been a problem in our county. Salvation Army, which does really good work, sadly, though, was not in a position to reduce the number of people at this Laurel Street shelter for 3 weeks of COVID-19. And they are 8 inches apart, and everybody was complaining they were coughing all the time. And, of course, it's the most severely disabled people are usually going there because they can't fight off attackers on the streets, and so they're the ones that take people with polio and with not polio, but with walking mobility issues and so on like that. Those people, the most elderly and frail are often the people at the shelters, and but then they leave the shelter after a night of coughing and being right next to somebody to wander around our town touching things, which is why we are calling for what the CDC says is the only prudent thing to do, and that's to place people in hotel rooms for the duration so that they will reduce the contraction from the general community. So we're very, very concerned about the health of the people. And I'm also getting many seniors are coming to me upset that they can't get a voucher to get into a hotel. And I've had a number of them are now so hysterical about it and so upset because of their health conditions and the difficulty of living outside that they are even threatening suicide. So it's not uncommon for me to have conversations with people to encourage them to continue to live. And that is a real shame that we have that in our community. But I have to say, it's like this everywhere. It's Food Not Bombs in D.C. was Washington, D.C. doing a huge campaign to try to get the city to put toilets and hand washing stations outside. And we got the same problem here. And I just got a call from Sonoma County from a woman who's trying to place people into hotels there, and she's completely frustrated. So I'm getting contacts from all over the United States that people are the governments are are so chaotic right now that they don't really have any kind of clear direction on what to do.
Oh, we've never been here before.
Right. I know. We've been inventing it ourselves. Yeah. And fortunately, we have the support of the health department in Santa Cruz. They've been, in fact, of all of the agencies in city or county or state, the only responsive people have been, particularly in environmental health, they have been super supportive and advocating for us, which has been beautiful. So the schedule is at 4 o'clock today and 4 o'clock tomorrow night, today and Easter, we share at the Laurel and Front Streets, because that's where one of the only toilets is downtown. There's only, they've locked almost all the toilets, and there is only, I think, 3, maybe 4 toilets total. And as people know, that by law, you're supposed to have 5 toilets, 5 hand washing stations per 100 people. And then there's hundreds of people living outside down here. And then the other thing, and that's growing, and it's going to probably double. They say it'll be another 1,600,000 people. This is Reuters.
Keith, this is all sobering stuff. But as you mentioned, we're trying to do positive things. So
yeah,
I know you are full of ideas. So real quick here, we got a lot of other callers that we want to put on, but please finish up with something positive, because we know the government is overrun, and I don't think anybody in the government is trying to
no, they just
stonewall.
Don't know
exactly. Right. So what's your suggestion for how to fix what you just?
Okay, I have a couple of suggestions. Now, I rented 180 beds for 2 nights in a row, and I think that there's money promised, and so I think somebody should go to all the hotels that works with the county, and I've actually offered to do this myself, and ask every hotel to take the people living on the streets for the safety of the entire community. So I think that would be good. And then the other thing is that we need volunteers and stuff. It's very exciting to help us. So we're cooking at India Joe's at 418 Front Street today, and we're sharing at and we've not missed a day or a meal, and we've secured tens of thousands of pounds of food, and so we need a downtown kitchen. That would be great. If somebody knows a restaurant owner that's out of business that wants money, we'll rent your kitchen from you. And we also serve on Monday through Friday from 1 to 6 at Laurel and Front Streets. And the faces of people so happy to get food, to wash their hands, to have a good book to read. So you can bring us books. You can bring us gloves. We need particularly large gloves and extra large food service gloves. And you can bring us love. And that's what we need.
All right.
Thank you so much, MZ.
Great way to end on that one.
Beautiful.
On that
Thank you so
Keith.
much.
Thank you, Keith.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, Keith McHenry, Food Not Bombs. Here's Andres in Capitola. You have a nice positive idea for KSCO in the community, yes?
It's neutral. It's positive if it has some good outcomes. Hear me out on this. So I think, I don't know about you, but I think that it's gone a little too far in the response that we're getting from the local government. The narrative seems to be changing from COVID to COVID inequality, how income levels are being affected differently. If you're in South County, you have less access, and now it's actually turning into there's a racial component to it. Have you heard about this?
I haven't, no. Michael and Jonty, have you heard of any of that Andres is talking about?
I saw something recently where who was it? I forgot who it was, but no, it was former Vice President Joe Biden was talking about it. I just saw that yesterday flash by.
Yeah.
That Joe Biden
that.
was pointing the finger at the COVID situation is a direct result of, or somehow related to racism.
So
but then again, everything is these days.
Yeah, no, what I'm seeing is an opportunity for these power-tripping authoritarians to use any and all angle to advance their agenda that was there all along. And I'm seeing it from Joe Biden. I saw it from Kamala Harris. I'm seeing it now from the Santa Cruz Sheriff's Department. On their Facebook page yesterday, they posted something that went along the lines of, if you perceive that you are being in any way attacked by anyone based on your race, please make sure to give us a call, including dialing 911. And this was tied into the COVID, because I guess there's been some attacks against people of Asian ancestry or perceived Asian ancestry.
Really? In Santa Cruz?
I don't know if there have been.
I've heard about that, I think, in New York a little bit a week or so ago. But wow.
But the way that it's worded, it's encouraging people to, be.
It's giving people ideas, I guess, but right?
We always hear, where we have in the past years heard stories about how people will call 911 when they get no chicken nuggets when they're going through the drive-thru and ridiculous stories like that. And it seems to be sort of a dog whistle for people with racial sensitivities. If you feel like you've been, persecuted based on your race, feel free to call us. Which, I mean, seriously, are we going to turn, as bad as racism is, are we going to turn the cops into the hate police now? They're going to be the thought police and start arresting or questioning people based on their racial beliefs? It seems to me like a good thing. Now that we see the narrative is changing, and I don't know if they're going to sustain the narrative change, it might go away along with the infection, because there's two infections going on. There's an actual virus infection, and then this Nazi infection of authoritarianism locally.
May I throw something in really quickly?
Yes.
Because there's another racism being put on the table here that really kind of gets me, and that is the use of the accusation that any association between the word China and the coronavirus is racist. That
Right.
is really big right now. This is huge. I just read where the University of California system has outlawed the connection between those two words. If you say China and coronavirus in the same breath, you are subject to the University of California's, not only the University of California, but other universities as well, and the science journal Nature actually apologized for using the word China virus. Now, there's something really big going on there that is truly frightening.
I think everybody is signaling on which side they are on when it comes to China versus United States.
I'm afraid you're right.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid I'm right too. And part of me says, let it happen, let China invade, and then we'll attack them once they invade. And part of me says, hell no, we won't go. But my idea for KSCO, at least for now, is some sort of a instructional video or tutorial on how to each listener who wants to and is not already an essential, a quote-unquote essential individual, how to become a member of the press and have legit papers to be out and about and have their camera with them and be members of the press. It could be a sort of a deputizing the listeners to be KSCO members or teaching them how to create their own press credentials.
Well, wait a minute. We do that. They are all over our press, and we ask them to keep their eyes and their ears open. And if they see something, pick up the phone and call us and let us know and tell your fellow listeners what's going on. Now, your fellow listeners might just say, well, wait a minute, I don't believe that. So you have to be prepared to defend yourself.
Yeah, no, what I'm asking for is actual papers from the station for listeners who might not already have papers in case they get stopped or harassed by the new conglomerate of enforcement. I'm not going to call them law enforcement because it doesn't seem like there's any law anymore. It seems like there's just enforcement. But they're all the boundaries, what do you call them, the jurisdiction lines have all been blurred. They're all working together. The game wardens, the park rangers, the state cops, the local cops, they're all following the orders of the health officer, not the elected
This is martial
sheriff.
law. We're under martial law.
It is, and so we got to use every angle, including getting some papers from KSCO, if you guys agree with it, or just if you're a listener out there and you want to look online on how to make your own essential papers, something that cites actual law, something that cites actual law, whether you're going to call yourself a member of the press or a legit member of the unorganized, irregular militia, whatever law you can cite, there's laws out there that you can use to make your own papers and make yourself essential.
And then you could hand it to the jailer and say, "Here, there's my get-out-of-jail card."
If you get caught, that's your problem.
By the way, Josh, what happened with the resolution, or has there been any resolution?
There hasn't been any resolution on my end yet. However, I have been getting solicited to talk more about it on various media outlets, including one of the local TV stations. That's something that Dean referred me to.
Well, why don't you talk about it on our radio station right now? Because
give us the scoop.
All right. Well, basically, what's happening is I might have myself an interview on Univision about it. But
about what?
About the whole encounter. Basically, I was at the end of. All right. So basically, I just got off work here at KSCO, not last Friday, but the one before that. And I went over to park at the end of 18th, just check out the beach, see how everyone's complying with the social distancing, shelter-in-place order, maybe even grab a quick little photo for a headline. And then I saw how good people were about that, so I was thinking, you know what? Let's set up a time-lapse as well and show everyone constantly moving. Well, just as I'm about to get off, a sheriff rolls back behind me and makes the rounds of ticketing everyone who's parked in their cars at the end of 18th Avenue. And so 3 of us got a ticket. Basically the sheriff's deputy was flexing the fact about how how the ticket is worth $1,000, and just he gave me a ticket. He gave this guy who was in his car reading a book a ticket, and he gave this other old elderly guy ticket as well. And he was just had his windows rolled up, just definitely in cohorts with the social distancing guidelines set forth. The only difference is they're in their car by themselves. But apparently that's a step too far. You can't do that by the beach. That's a big no-no by the sheriffs and
Josh,
the authorities.
I have a question.
Yeah, what you got, Andres?
Did you at any point have the opportunity to let him know that you were an essential media member?
I did. I even waived the letter that I had crafted as early as March 3rd.
So they're not even following their own rules, their own rules of engagement.
They aren't.
Well, then, what is this? This is not even. This is not law enforcement. This is just enforcement, like I said earlier.
Yeah, that's true. On that note, so let me make sure I'm getting this right. So your proposal for the KSCO and community engagement during this time is something along the lines as trying to document all these absurdities and just publicize them? Is that your proposal?
It's wherever it may go. I'm not proposing anything specific. I'm just saying to allow people to be prepared, both with ideas, with documentation, so that it can be shown that even within their own rules, they are not following. As ridiculous as their rules already are, point out how they are not following their own rules and try to shame them into submission. What else can we do other than actual revolt?
Yeah, and you actually mentioned a great point, too, because during this entire counter, both the sheriff's deputy as well as his backup that eventually rolled up, neither of which were wearing personal protective equipment such as masks. And their own press release said sheriffs who are doing the compliance conduction and search, they're supposed to be wearing PPEs. And neither officer was doing that. Also, one of my friends also got one of these tickets for walking their dog from SoCal High onto one of the parks when the whole park ban got enforced. And they didn't know about it because they were trying to stay off the phone.
I think it might be time for a special election for everyone involved, maybe the sheriff, including the sheriff. Maybe reaching out, maybe KSCO can reach out to the Oath Keepers. They're an organization that is designed to make sure that the Constitution, people who take an oath to the Constitution, that's happening. Maybe they could have an hour or two a week or their own show on KSCO, so that we can game plan something, because this is ridiculous. This is what we were taught about in school. Show us your papers, please, from Germany, you know. I got to go, but it's been nice talking to you, and thank you for letting me talk.
You as well,
Andreas,
Yes, sir.
before you go, we have to ask if you have any toilet paper. Is it all okay in that respect?
I hang some toilet paper around my neck as a symbol status, and it helps picking up chicks. They see that I'm prepared, and they say, wow, this guy's got it together.
There you go. Have a good go.
Thanks. You too.
All right, there goes Andres. We got a number of other people here. Let me. We'll get to the phone calls, but let me. I want to thank Richard. I don't know which Richard, but it's who sent a sheriff's office statement regarding race, and it has a link to a FaceTime video that's not so long that I shouldn't play it. So why don't I play it? Okay.
They should live in fear because of who they are or where their family is from. We're in this together. Thank you.
Oh, that was the end of it. I should start at the beginning, shouldn't I? All right, well, here's what it says. No one should live in fear because of who...
All of us at the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office want to thank our community for their cooperation and support during this health emergency. Unfortunately, there's a growing concern across the country over racism and discrimination due to the fear of the coronavirus, particularly targeting people of Asian descent. While many people in our community are aware there is no place for discrimination here, we want to remind everyone it will not be tolerated. Racism and hate toward any group of people, regardless of their race, gender, and sexual orientation, are unacceptable. That includes both physical and online threats. If you believe you are being treated differently or experience discrimination from your employer, housing provider, or anyone in the public based on your perceived race, or if you are the victim of any crime, please call 911 if you need immediate help. You can also call our non-emergency dispatch line at 831-471-1121. No one should live in fear because of who they are or where their family is from. We're in this together. Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that's Nazism. Andres,
neither do I.
Are you still there, Andres?
He had to go.
Okay.
But let me throw something in, Z. I think it's absolutely correct that this should not be pinned on the Chinese people. It should be pinned on the Chinese Communist Party, which is responsible for this stuff. Now, if this whole thing about racism means that we must now only say nice things about the Chinese Communist Party, I got a big problem with that.
Yeah, so do I. But I don't. I didn't get that feeling from this little video that I played the audio of. All right, you're listening to the KSCO Saturday Special. What time is it?
10:54.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Is it 10? Okay, yeah, all right. And my name is MZ. Michael Olson is with us, and so is, believe it or not, Jaunty. Jaunty, say something to prove that you're really with us.
Unusually quiet, haven't I?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I'm not too concerned about this causing some kind of explosion of racism or xenophobia, at least not at this point in time. With regards to the U.S.-Chinese relations, or the relations, that is, between the culture and people of the U.S. and the culture and people of China, also the governments of the two places. From sort of having an overview of media in general, I'm not real concerned that China is somehow going to skirt criticism, because what I see everywhere is uniform criticism of the Chinese Communist Party. That might have something to do with the lens through which I view the world, but some intelligent people, much smarter than me, were saying a year ago, I'm thinking about...
Hey, wait a second, Jaunty, I got to talk to Josh. I don't mean to interrupt you, but someone is messing with the call screening thing and is hanging up on people who've been waiting for a long, long time. What's going on there? It's not me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the call screening thing's acting up here. Because, like...
Yeah, because I think someone from Ben Lomond, I think it was Richard, but I'm not sure of the name, was waiting for a long time, and I was going to put him up next, and then he
Maybe you got tired of waiting.
No, it wasn't that at all. It wasn't that at all. It was selected and dropped, you know. So that's just no good at all. Let me handle the phone system, okay, from my end, okay, Josh? I know we can both do it, but things like this are going to happen unless one person is in charge. Oh, my God. It's got to be very, very frustrating when someone's been waiting and waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden they get dropped, you know. Anyhow, go ahead, Jonty. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that folks like Kyle Bass or Peter Zion were saying that China's actually in a real tough spot. They're in a lot of trouble. The Chinese Communist Party, that is, with regards to their economy, essentially, and that it would take some small black swan event to really turn up the heat and possibly topple their whole system. So when I look at the geopolitical scenario, I'm not seeing this situation as being advantageous to the Chinese Communist Party at all. I'm seeing them doing damage control in a major way, and they were already in a tough spot. They were already renegotiating Belt and Road agreements and scaling back their ambitions because they ran out of money, essentially.
When you say tough spot, it would indicate to some people that there is some understanding on your part instead of that's the wrong word. What happened to my vocabulary? Anyhow, it's well deserved tough spot ism. You know, that's what I think. Sorry, that's what I think. What do you think?
Well, the topic, a lot of the topic of today's show has been authoritarianism and how that functions. You know, that'll happen in any society. We can see it here. We see that whenever you strap a gun around somebody's waist and put a badge on them and make them wear big boots. It's very difficult not to be an authoritarian in that mindset. But the Communist Party in China has got a substantial kleptocratic aspect, as well as a system that's based on authoritarianism with a particularly strong man in power. So the way that information disseminates in an authoritarian society is different than what we have here, owing to institutions like KSCO, for instance, that give us all a chance to be skeptical. We're kind of the pan opposite here. In China, the system tells you what you think about something. So everyone's sort of saying, so what do we think about this? And then you wait until you hear from the authorities to find out what you think. Here, everybody's got a different opinion. And frankly, sometimes we're quite nuts. I see this virus as a mirror. Everyone's just looking at themselves. And what everybody sees in the virus is a reflection of who they are.
Okay. Hey, Josh, there's someone who's locked in who I didn't lock in. Who is it?
I didn't even touch it.
Okay. Well,
It's me.
Huh?
Michael?
No, it's not you, Olson. It's somebody else. And now they're unlocked. Yeah, and they were making noises that were detracting from the otherwise wonderful radio show. So, okay, well, let's go to our next caller. Who's been waiting the longest?
San Jose to Santa Cruz and Highway 1 from Santa Cruz to Monterey, including Highway 68 Monterey to Salinas, moving along, all along at the limit. Looking at our weather outside KSCO, it's currently 56 today. We're expecting a high of 63. Overnight temperatures down to the mid-40s. Clouds continuing to linger throughout your weekend, and patchy fog overnight is going to be the theme out there. KSCO News Talk time, 11:06. Let's get you over to hour number 2 of the Saturday special. This is KSCO.
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to call back. KSCO has the inside track.
Oh, yeah. So welcome to hour number 2 of the Saturday special. The alligator got us at the end of the last hour, but stay with us until noon, okay?
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason I lost the control of the phone system, but I got it back. Looks like we have a full board. We got Michael Olson as a locked-in phone guest, and Jaunty McCollier as a locked-in phone guest. And people are calling 479-1080 to participate in this radio program that was supposed to be What Can KSCO Do for our community and for our advertisers in particular who make KSCO possible. And it sort of evolved into some other stuff here, but it's okay. Tom Quinn, you were about to tell us something before we...
Well, thanks for having the show. I'm also happy there's people that are thinking about this in a critical manner because the emotions don't help the situation. But there was a great interview with Senator Dr. Scott Jensen on Fox News where he had the actual paperwork from the Minnesota Department of Health, which was 7 pages, more or less demanding that hospitals make all the random illnesses coronavirus. And here's the thing, they're offering $13,000 for each COVID admission. That's from Medicare. If they put them on a ventilator, they get $39,000. So you see how they've incentivized this whole thing to pump the numbers up. They're pumping the numbers up like crazy. So of the 50,000 odd people that die every year from flu, they're basically sucking all those numbers down and moving them over to the COVID column.
So listen, Tom, if this is true, that's real scary to me.
Of course it is.
How do we know that it's true? Certainly not just because it ran on Fox News that I like to watch also.
Well, this guy's no clown. He's a doctor and a senator, Scott Jensen from Minnesota. You can go anywhere on the internet and see, but tie that in with the hundreds of doctors and nurses that are on the internet talking about how their hospital is forcing them to put all the COVID people, all those flu people, pneumonia people, all these people are being shuffled over to COVID. For example, you can go on federal statistics and see how many people die of pneumonia every year, going back for decades. This year, there's no one dying of pneumonia. Is that wonderful? All the pneumonia cases were cured? No, they just moved them over to COVID. This is a giant con job. You're watching a very well-constructed con job, and they're doing everything to prolong it. You got these politicians locally, they're like in hog heaven. They're grabbing money, they're getting power, they're convincing the hospitals to call everything COVID. It's all very suspect. You know, another interesting thing is this whole thing, people are looking so hard at the virus, why don't they look around a little and expand their mind? In Wuhan, China, which is arguably the most polluted country in the world, and Wuhan was the most polluted city in the country, the sky was black with pollution, and they were having demonstrations weeks before this thing started with people complaining about the air pollution, and simultaneously they had installed 10,000 5G towers, where if you had one of these towers across the street from your home or condo, it was like being a hot dog fried in a microwave. And I work as an electronic engineer. When you're around radiation, it creates symptoms that are remarkably similar to flu. So you see that The companies that make 5G and the companies that create the air pollution, it's in their best interest to say that some virus did it. They can't go on TV and own up to it. They'd be sued to oblivion. Just like some of these officials are grabbing all this power. You know, all the people who have lost money with their business and stuff, they can sue these officials because officials cannot show any constitutional grounds for their behavior, which means they're acting as individuals, which means they're open to liability from all of us that are losing money,
Jesus,
including the health officers.
Tom, I love you. You know that, and I'm a very open-minded person, but you're making my head explode. Olson and Jonty, do you believe anything about what Tom is? I'm not saying I don't, but my head is exploding.
Tom, if I could, I was just going to ask him. You know, back in January, were you a fan of 5G? Did you think 5G was going to be a wonderful, great thing?
Well, I worked around radiation all my life, and I can remember decades ago reading magazines saying that there was a higher than average incidence of leukemia among engineers that worked around radio and TV transmitters. And basically, I just put that in the back of my head. So when people ask me about 3G, 4G, 5G, I just said, let's sort of wait and see. But the thing is, everyone knows, just studying a microwave oven, you can't get too close to these things. You can't turn the power up too high. I mean,
I agree with you, Tom.
Cook food with these things.
I'm not a fan of radiation myself. I wouldn't want a 5G tower installed in my backyard. But what I'm just sort of asking is that, you know, a couple months ago before the coronavirus came along, I'm just guessing you weren't a big fan of 5G. You were probably telling people this is a problem and we should be wary of this whole thing. And I'm also guessing that you had concerns about authoritarianism, and you had concerns about our government turning towards a more kind of oppressive regime versus, you know, open democracy.
Right. Well, I mean, anyone who's heard my show, I was on the air for 20 years. I'm sort of a big believer in, you know, using the logical method. I mean, if
I'm just
5G towers,
if you'd allow me to, I'd just appreciate if you'd let me just say that what I said earlier about this virus being a reflection of ourselves, you look into this situation and you see what you already thought before. And so do so many people. I mean, I'm hearing it from very intelligent people. Very intelligent people are telling me that 5G is the thing, or China, it's a big conspiracy, and China is going to take over.
I'm leaving the China thing out because it's very speculative. I mean,
I'm hearing this from lots and lots of smart people, really smart people.
But well, I think let me lay out some ground rules that I think everyone can agree to, which is, as a reporter or journalist, you have to separate things that are absolutely provable for things that are speculative. It's absolutely provable that they're fudging the numbers. Absolutely provable. As I said, look up Minnesota
that might be the
Senator
case. What you haven't
Dr. Scott Jensen.
Fudging the numbers in India. How are they fudging the numbers in Spain? I mean, are you talking about a situation where
because they've incentivized this thing?
World, they're all part of some kind of, you know, cadre that's decided that we're going to fake the numbers and freak people out. Because
are you aware that almost every single media organization on the planet Earth for the major networks is owned about 5 or 6 corporations, and those 5 or 6 corporations have board of directors that all know each other? So you're talking a handful of men
in Vietnam
control the media globally.
In Vietnam, because Vietnam
all over the world.
Seriously,
all over the world, the media.
Vietnam? The whole world.
On the entire planet Earth, the media is owned by corporations that have interlocking directorates. In the United States, there's 6 primary media corporations. Those directorates have people on the boards that know each other. So you've got a dozen people pretty much control the news in the United States on the big outlets, not this station, thank God. Not on the internet necessarily.
Well, from my perspective, Tom, I feel like I'm learning more about who you are and how you think about the world than necessarily the virus or what's happening.
Well, let's bring the comments back to my initial statement. Dr. Scott Jensen. Look it up on the internet. He's a senator. He's a doctor. He has the paperwork showing that the Minnesota State Board of Health was demanding that the hospitals put these additional people who had pneumonia and flu and such down as coronavirus. That's just a factoid. I'm throwing it out there. Do with it what you will.
Jaunty, if you grant that what Tom has just said is true, does that concern you?
As I say, MZ, I think that this virus is a mirror. When I looked at the virus, I saw a bunch of vectors and probabilities, and I stocked up on food in January. And then after I saw those vectors and probabilities, I thought, oh my God, India. I thought, oh man, all those people living on the riverbanks in Bangladesh. And I thought, oh my God, the people in the favelas in Brazil. And then I thought about the shanty towns in sub-Saharan Africa. That's a reflection of me. That's what I cared about. I mean, I'm sure that, a lot of folks, very intelligent folks, and they might have very good points. What they see is this grand plan of the global elites to take away our freedoms. What I see is an opportunity for us to demonstrate our humanity. We had a homelessness crisis for 10 years. 10 years I've been listening to people go on KSCO and say, we have a homelessness crisis. We have to solve it. Now, a crisis is a thing that you have to deal with right away. If I had a crisis in my house, it would be like a broken water pipe in the kitchen, and there'd be flooding, and I would be running in there with a wrench, and, oh, my God, I would drop everything else and solve the crisis. We've been talking about the homelessness crisis for 10 years, and nothing has happened. And now, all of a sudden, oh, my gosh, the homeless people, they could be carriers. We have to do something. It actually is a crisis. We didn't know that. It actually is a crisis. Because before we could say, what happens to them doesn't happen to us. But we can't say that anymore, because what happens to them is going to happen to us. I mean, this coronavirus just put its arms around us and gave us a big hug and said, guess what, humanity? You're in this together. So that's what I see when I look at what I think is a mirror. I think everyone should close their eyes, and they should say to themselves what they see when they look at this virus. And then they should open their eyes and realize that they're looking at themselves.
I still wish I knew the answer to whether you think Tom is full of it or not.
And part of the way that I approach things is pragmatism. Is Tom going to benefit our society by having his perspective? Yeah. I would like him. I mean, I think he has a good process. I think he's a smart guy with a good process. I don't have to adhere to everything he says, I can maintain a scientific skepticism about it all.
Well, that's what I'm trying to encourage here. I'm trying to encourage people to get out of the emotions and look at factoids. Here's a factoid, okay? Just a little fact. If people study what Medicare is paying for these admissions, they'll get an understanding of the financial incentives for this thing. According to Dr. Scott Jensen, who is a senator, they're paying $13,000 for each COVID admission. They're paying $39,000 for each COVID admission that requires a ventilator. They pay chump change for flu. They pay chump change for pneumonia. They're making bank on the COVID, okay? That's a factoid. You can throw it away. You can laugh at it. It has nothing to do with theory, metaphysics, or the other side of the planet. That's just a little factoid that's happening right here, right now.
Well,
I'd say, if I had to just sort of guess, I'd say about 2 billion people right now are not working, or are not being required to pay their mortgage or their rent. Mortgage and rent, evictions and foreclosures are put on hold in a huge portion of the world right now. It's mostly Europe, India, not a small country. I'll just wild guess. I'd say about 2 billion people right now don't have to pay their rent or their mortgage. We're talking about a jailbreak here in terms of freedom.
Okay,
what
Kathy.
really makes you a slave is the BS that we have to pay for all the time. It's the 40-hour work week.
Kathy the troll sends an email saying, ask him, presumably Tom, for a link to the Fox story. Michael, please ask people for proof. You let them go on and on about ridiculous stories. People tune in and hear it and think it's true. You could make sure that they hear that it's not confirmed to be true. And that's from Kathy the troll.
Well, let me repeat the sources again. Fox News, the Laura Ingraham interview a couple of days ago, Dr. Scott Jensen, who is a senator, who is a doctor, okay? But you can go on the internet and see other doctors and nurses complaining about
the same Kathy sent me the actual link to the Fox News story. You tell me if this doesn't seem to be too long. I can play it here. Dr. Jensen calls it ridiculous, CDC guidelines for coronavirus-related deaths. Come on, have it come up on I just want it to play. Okay, it looks like it's going to play. Oh, it's 4.55 minutes. Well, we can do it. We can do it. Let's see here. It's coming up. It's coming up.
It's only human to care for those we love.
Oh, I don't want to hear the damn ad. I pay extra money so I don't have to listen to the damn ads. Why are they feeding me the damn ads?
Because you got to log into your YouTube account that has the YouTube
okay,
Plus
well,
or whatever.
Here it comes anyhow.
My next guest is a doctor and state senator in Minnesota who is deeply troubled by the CDC's latest guidance for counting COVID deaths. Dr. Scott Jensen joins me now. Doctor, I want to read for our viewers what the CDC says in part about how to count COVID deaths relating to that last issue we just raised. In cases where a definite diagnosis of COVID cannot be made, but is suspected or likely, like the circumstances are compelling with a reasonable degree of certainty, it is acceptable to report COVID-19 on a death certificate as probable or presumed. So, doctor, what's the problem with that?
Well, in short, it's ridiculous. I spent some time earlier today just going through the CDC's manual on how to complete death certificates and the parts that were specifically written for physicians. And in that manual, it talks of precision and specificity, and that's what we were trained with. The determination of the cause of death is a big deal. It has impact on estate planning. It has impact on future generations. And the idea that we're going to allow people to massage and sort of game the numbers is a real issue, because we're going to undermine the trust. And right now, as we see politicians doing things that aren't necessarily motivated on fact and science, the public's their trust in politicians is already wearing thin.
And doctor, in that same CDC guidance sheet on COVID-19, it references the fact that basically this is a judgment call for doctors on how to fit, I read it, what goes on line 1, and then what goes on line 2, and what goes on the final line as far as contributing factors and ultimate cause of death. But they concede that it is a judgment call. Again, why is that not correct?
Well, let's just take influenza. If I have a patient died a month ago, had fever, cough, and died after 3 days, and maybe had been an elderly, fragile individual, and there happened to be an influenza epidemic around our community, I wouldn't put influenza on the death certificate, and I've never been encouraged to do so. I would put probably respiratory arrest would be the top line, and the underlying cause of disease would be pneumonia, and in the contributing factors, I might well put emphysema or congestive heart failure. But I would never put influenza down as the underlying cause of death, and yet that's what we're being asked to do here.
Dr. Fauci was asked about the COVID death count today. Here's what he said in part.
What do you say to those folks who are making the claim without really any evidence that these deaths are being padded, that the number of COVID-19 deaths are being padded?
You will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions.
Conspiracy theories, doctor? So you're engaging in conspiracy theories. What do you say to Dr. Fauci tonight?
Well, I would remind him that anytime healthcare intersects with dollars, it gets awkward. Right now, Medicare has determined that if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you'll get paid $13,000. If that COVID-19 patient goes on a ventilator, you get $39,000, 3 times as much. Nobody can tell me after 35 years in the world of medicine that sometimes those kinds of things impact on what we do. Some physicians really have a bent towards public health, and they will put down influenza or whatever because that's their preference. I try to stay very specific, very precise. If I know I've got pneumonia, that's what's going on, the death certificate. I'm not going to add stuff just because it's convenient. I think that it's not a conspiracy theory at all.
Yeah. So you reject what he said?
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting that in Italy, where socialized medicine, I guess they don't have an interest in the money, if that's what it is here, and they just went back and they started reclassifying deaths according to their top scientific advisor. So they admitted that they were being liberal or generous in how they coded some of these deaths, and they're just going back and reclassifying them. Does that surprise you?
It really does. I mean, let's just take someone getting hit by a bus and they collapse the lung and they go into the emergency room and they're there for 15, 20 minutes. Blood work comes back, COVID test comes back positive, and they die 20 minutes later because of their collapsed lung. We're going to put that down as COVID-19? That doesn't make any sense.
Dr. Jensen, really important conversation. We really, really appreciate your data-driven perspective. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much to Kathy the Troll for sending us that. Gee, she should make a great producer for the Saturday special, my God. Well, okay, is that the same? Presumably, Tom Quinn, that's the same report that you saw.
Absolutely, but here, that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is every time you hear these people talk, they brag about how they have precise testing, and the precise testing they use is called PCR, which is polymerase chain reaction. That's a test that was invented back in the days of AIDS by Dr. Kary Mullis. And Dr. Kary Mullis was awarded the Nobel Prize for coming up with this test. This test was designed to be applied to a person to see if they had a heavy viral load. In other words, if they had a lot of infection in the body, they'd run this test and they'd find high amounts of RNA particles that were coming from dead cells. But here's the rub. Dr. Kary Mullis, you can find interviews with him all over the internet where he explains that the test can be used to detect a high viral load, which shows someone's sick, but it's impossible to use it to detect a specific virus. It's impossible to use it to detect COVID-19. It can only detect a general high viral load. Okay?
All right. Tom, I'm going to lock you in case people want to challenge you or agree with you or whatever, but please, there's so many other people that we want to give a chance.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
But
Go
stay there, okay? Anyhow, but sure. And try not to, for those of you who are locked in, like Michael and Jonty and now Tom, please try not to sneeze or cough. Not that it'll go over the broadcast and we'll all catch it, but it's disturbing, to hear the audio. And I have no way of shutting you down, except, taking you off the air. I guess I could do that, but it's a big hassle when we've locked you in. So anyhow, try to let's go to Lee in Salinas, who's been waiting 34 minutes. Hey, Lee, you're on.
Wonderful. I called about almost spot on to what Tom Quinn is focusing on, but this man that I have found is in England, and he had, in the last few days, 2 million views on YouTube, and then they blocked his content and shut him down over 5G and why they're burning the towers down over there, why the radiation exposure is killing. He shows pictures of the trees dying, dead on one side of the tree. And I go all the way back to Dr. Samuel Milham. I am on a analog line today. I've never used I don't want any of the 5-level G or any of that stuff, because Dr. Milham did ergonomics for Boeing. In his first book, he cites schools, cell towers. The evidence is what's come out of them. I haven't heard his voice for years now, but I can tell you that if you go to real, let me see here. This man's website is londonreal.tv, is where he was banned and shut down. And if you can't find that information, go to banned.video. And Mike, you're the man. You brought this information, man, to my light, and I've never backed off of him. And that video, banned.video, is Alex Jones, and he now has brought David Icke, another Englishman over there, that has been hammered over in England, because David Icke has exposed the roots of what Bill Gates and the roots of his family, and how Bill Gates has never been accredited by any scholarly group, but his monies are controlling people, are going to CVC. People are taking on. You got to see what these people are talking about, because I'm telling you, we are being attacked. This 5G system, it breaks down our immune system. In Wuhan, 1 million people there, they were getting hammered seriously, because they have that was where the full model of 5G was laid out in China.
Okay, Lee, listen to me.
Yes.
We're going to move on, and I'm not cutting you off. What you're saying may be true. We got so many other callers. And Josh, I just sent a private message to you on the call screening line. I hope you got it, asking you to get Richard B. Luther II, our esteemed engineer, on the line. We have a VIP line you can call out on. I'm not going to give his number on the air, but I hope you got it. Did you get that message?
I did.
Mike,
okay, good. See if you can get him on. Yeah, go ahead. Wait just a second, Lee, and then we're gonna, you can finish your point, and then we got to move on to a bunch of other people, including poor Rich and Ben Lohman, who was hung up on, and he still waited another 37 minutes. So go ahead, Lee, quick.
Yes. This profile of like 200 or 300 years with Bill Gates, everybody's got to see that profile. And the last thing I need to bring to the table, on your competitor station, Clear Channel, on Thursday, they're announcing, now this is scrambling eggs, but they're announcing that they're going to shut down, lock up the grocery stores in Salinas today at noon or something like that. I haven't heard anything more on it since Thursday, so I don't know what this power of authority, how they're going off the chart here, as another one of the earlier speakers here. So I just say to you, we need to have more than just this Saturday special. We've got to get together and start looking at this thing. I mean, I've known Tom Quinn for 20 years. I can tell you the truth. I know that's what Christ said when Michael's on Metro Farms this morning is talking about good can overpower evil, and that's what's going on today. Thank you, Mike. We love you.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it.
God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Here's Rich and Ben Lohman. You're finally on, Rich. I'm sorry you got hung up on before.
That's okay. I tell you, initially I wanted to talk about how people around here are healthier, not only because of the vitamin D from the sun, but from a lot of alternative medicine. However, in light of Tom Q's statements, I like to give some evidence. It appears that this thing is a con job to me, this coronavirus. For example, the government has passed a $2.2 trillion loan to bail out people to keep the economy going. Now, I haven't got my $1,200 check, but consider this. Back in the early 2000s, President Clinton passed a bill saying that you had to loan money to people who had low income so they could buy a house, because there was discrimination not to. So what happened after a while, people started foreclosing, or they started getting foreclosed on because they didn't pay. So what happens, the government passed that too big to fail bill. They got bailed out, and if you compare that to what we got now, it's looks to me there's evidence that this is a big con job, and as a result, the government's passed this $2.2 trillion loan. Congress approved it. Trump signed it. And now where's that money go to? It's bailing out big companies. And it's supposed to go to people like me, but I haven't got my check. So I would agree with Tom Q that this is a con job. And somebody mentioned Alex Jones. Alex Jones says the idea is to keep your immune system going, and he talks about some hydroxide, something or other, and then, but more important, zinc. And to that, I'd add iodine is the way to beat this thing, not this face mask stuff. I would agree with Tom Q about it being.
Thank you for calling in to agree with Tom Q. There goes Rich and Ben.
MZ, if I may.
Go ahead, Michael.
MZ, I was just going to say that we're.
That's not. It's really Jonty, not Michael. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I was really looking forward to a discussion about how Santa Cruz can kind of take care of each other and.
I know. God.
And I've watched the David Icke interview. I'm very familiar with all this stuff. I know that there's a whole kind of nefarious angle to everything if you decide to look at things that way. But I think there's a lot of opportunities here as well. And one of the things that Michael Olson asked earlier in the show, which I thought was brilliant, why is Santa Cruz doing so well? How come Santa Cruz beat this thing? I mean, compared to the rest of the bleeping country, we beat this thing. We just beat it. We beat it early. There's something special about us. I know there is. You know there is. We all love this station because we love Santa Cruz. There's something special going on here. I think it's because nut jobs like me, who are running around in January telling people that this is coming, are given a voice, are encouraged. Yeah. Or maybe it's just that people smoke really good pot. I don't know what it is, MZ, but there's something special about Santa Cruz. I think we can beat the virus. We did. I think we can also come out and we can beat the economic downturn here. In a very
okay. Jonty, thank you. CBO.
Sybil?
Yeah, you're on the air.
So, hi, everybody. Yeah, why is nobody talking about stopping the virus before it starts? And that is closing down the live animal.
It already started. It's too late.
No. I mean, in the future, because it's closing down the live animal markets in China. It is not racist to tell the people in China not to eat bats because they carry the virus. This is not the time to be politically correct.
Oh, I know.
If we stop the virus in China where it starts, it's protecting the people in China. So how can this be racist? And the guy who talked about 5G, maybe there's something to it, because I think it really lowers the immune system of people, because Wuhan, China is covered in 5G, covered. And maybe we should look into this before we, have it all here.
Well, I think it's too late for that. Billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, as I understand it, have already been spent deploying 5G in our country.
Yeah.
And we have the word is out for our esteemed engineer, Richard B. Luther II, to call in and give us his take on 5G.
Yeah. Okay,
but
that would be great.
So far, we haven't connected with him, so I don't know if we will.
But also about the live animal markets, they have to be closed down, because there'll be other viruses over and over again.
Exactly.
I mean, people in China have to change.
Yeah, who's that, Olson?
That's Olson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael.
When this virus first made its appearance, the Chinese Communist Party said the reason this virus escaped is because it was generated at the Wuhan wet market, which sells live animals and whatnot. But if you really look into this situation, it appears as though, and I put 90% of credibility in this, that the virus was generated at the level 4 Wuhan bioweapon lab. And there is and it actually, the person working on that coronavirus was working here in North Carolina on a grant from the U.S. federal government. In year 2014, the federal government ended that program because it was too dangerous. And the woman who was working on that project went back to China. And I think she picked up a contract from the CCP. But her name is Shi Zhengli. And she's been working on this virus since then at the Wuhan lab. And what they've been doing is they've been collecting bat coronaviruses. And they've been collecting them because the coronaviruses from these bats it shows a predilection for being transmissible from species to species. And so to me, the whole notion that this was somehow popped out of the Wuhan live wet market is a convenient excuse for the Chinese Communist Party to say it was just an accident.
Michael, you could be right, but then you could be wrong.
I could be wrong. Yeah. You're right.
So.
Yeah, we
I
don't
could
know
be
how
wrong. But
by the
what
way,
if I'm not?
T spelled TEA. Send an email to mz@ksco.com. Properly reporting cause of death. MZ, I see reporting the causes of death very simply, regardless of underlying conditions or comorbidities. If the person wouldn't have died if they hadn't contracted COVID-19, then the cause of death was due to complications from COVID-19. Well, T makes a good point, but I'm not sure that takes into account the reclassification that Tom spoke so eloquently about. Anyhow, thank you very much, CBO, for calling 479-1080. We appreciate your call. George in Hollister does not believe Olson's comment. Well, let's find out what comment George doesn't believe. Go ahead, George.
Okay.
You're on.
Thank you. Michael Olson last hour said we're under martial law, and I don't believe that's true. I'd like to hear why he thinks that.
Well, I do not believe it is a declared martial law, but I do believe that it is in effect a martial law. When you cannot walk to the beach, when you cannot walk in the forest, you're under the martial law. I mean, it is.
Okay, so you're saying de facto martial law, but
de facto martial law. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been declared. I mean, no, the president hasn't said that the government is taking over, but it is in effect a martial law.
It wouldn't be the president; it would be the governor.
Okay.
I suppose it could under some circumstances, but usually it would be the governor. But see, you're saying it's a declared, a de facto martial law, and our law enforcement agencies are acting as if it is, but they don't have the authority to do that. So none of their enforcement efforts are valid, I don't think.
Well, wait a minute. Ask Josh if they have the authority to give him a $1,000 fine for taking pictures of the ocean.
Well, that hasn't been in the court yet, and I've tried to suggest that he might have an ally and an attorney, which I'm sorry I still can't give you the name of, but I can tell you how to get the attorney's
our own guy,
name
Dean Sutton, who does the law of the land. He's an attorney, but you can like him anyway.
Yes, I do.
Well, the alternative to an attorney is that we could bake Josh a pie with a razor blade in it and slip it into his jail cell so that he could...
Well, see, no, yeah, I know. That just makes you as bad as they are. I think I suggested this before, that there should be some consequence to this enforcement. When people have, like the sheriff, the police agencies, they have the obligation to know that they don't have the authority. They can't just plead ignorance. So somebody should sue somebody for a false arrest or something. You should get this established. Otherwise, they're going to run roughshod over us, and God knows where we'll end up,
George in Hollister is right. Thank you for calling 479-1080. Let's take our next caller. That would be none other than Gray in Soquel. Hi, Gray. You're on.
Capitola Gray in Soquel. I'll try to be brief so I don't lose the audience.
Yes.
But just about 4 quick things. One, I wanted to put in a plug for Food Not Bombs. They've been separating the people, and they always accept donations. Number 2, when I was listening to Tom, I looked it up online, and I found one thing. I guess I can't. Oh, it's under contendingfortruth.com. Contendingfortruth.com. And so I came to the conclusion, my opinion, that that's not common sense, but good sense, because sometimes good sense isn't too common. And I was thinking of some of the same things that he was thinking of. And, you know, just even mask, why do we have to be 6 feet away and not be able to go to work and ruin the economy if we can just use the mask? But some of the other things that he was talking of, I would like to, if you can give him my number, I would appreciate it, or if I can get his number later. And
who
then
are you talking about?
Tom.
Okay, Tom. Here, I'm going to
have him give his number over the air.
I don't think you want to do that, do you, Gray?
Yeah, I'll do it. 831-535-3539.
Michael, can I say something?
One last thing. I think it would be good. I don't know if you mentioned it, but maybe on another day, have a special show with I don't remember her name, but with the chief health officer.
Oh, yeah,
and
of course.
Yeah, because I would even
the one
like
who
to ask
closed
her,
the beaches and will hopefully open the beaches after the 15th.
Yeah, and you know what I do when they approach me? If I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't give them ID, because that's constitutional, my constitutional right. And if you're willing to go to jail, which a lot of people aren't, then I talk to them for over a half an hour before, and then if you're not doing anything wrong, they just go away. Not being disrespectful. Thank you. That's my time.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom. What were you going to say?
You know, I mentioned something earlier that needs to be reemphasized. The tests are claiming to prove the existence of this virus does not test the existence of the virus. The PCR test, please people look this up, PCR test does not have the ability to detect COVID virus. It has the ability to detect that somebody has a viral load or that they're potentially infected, but not from COVID. So every single person who has pneumonia, every single person who has the flu, every single person who has any sort of health issues at all tends to show positive on the test. The test is wildly inaccurate. So if you combine that with the fact they're fudging the numbers and they're getting paid more money from the federal government for, $13,000 for a COVID admission, $39,000 for one with a ventilator. You see, they don't have a way to detect the disease. They're just making this stuff up as they go along. Look it up. It's called PCR, polymerase chain reaction test, invented by Dr. Carrie Mullis. And
Dean,
once you understand,
Tom, I got an email from Dean, apparently one of your fans. Tom Quinn is right. Sooner and later, we will find out this COVID-19 is full of lies and scams. Remember, I was not born yesterday. It was the day before. Best Dean. So there you have it. All right, let's take our next caller. I'm going to hit next and see who it connects to.
It's Rory. Thank you, MD.
Hi, Rory.
Yeah, and Tom's right. The polymerase chain reaction test is good for some things, not great for everything. We need an antibody test that'll test specifically for this virus. Don't know if that's possible. Do a cross section of the population.
Yeah, I heard that should be ready pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah,
no, we already
because
have it's been distributed to healthcare workers. That's the thing.
Okay, thank you.
Part of how we're going to come out of this.
Exactly, and this is my thinking. We have got 7% of the mortality in California that we've done in New York, and we've got twice the state of New York's population. Something's going on here. I think this virus was here a lot earlier, and it's already made the rounds without the devastation. So time will tell.
If we shut down a week earlier, that's what it is. We shut down a week earlier.
No, Shanti, no way.
No.
There's no way in hell, not a chance. You go look at the deaths in LA County.
You look at a chart and you just see here's the numbers. You shut down a week earlier, and it should be about here. So 2 + 2 = 4.
Well, but if you already had partial herd immunity, that's going to negate any of those charts. Okay, and time will tell. Okay, I know lots of people were sick. I know a guy almost died from pneumonia complications in January. Anyway. Dr. Shiva, the guy that invented email, has been making the rounds. He's running for Senate in Massachusetts. Mike MC, you should have him on. Shanti, are you willing to listen to him?
I saw that. I saw that. Someone sent me that.
An hour-long interview with Dr. Shiva, and I wrote a thoughtful response to MZ, who was asking me what I thought about it.
Yes.
Okay, well, have him on. Let's hear him out.
Well,
okay, so the other thing...
Is he the guy who sells something at the end?
Yeah, but he's got 4 degrees from MIT, and he invented email. That should say something about the guy's intelligence.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm not trying to vouch for the guy, but I'd like to hear him. The other thing I did hear yesterday was an interview with the epidemiologist Knut Witkowski. And what he had to say was very interesting. He said the only way we're going to get past this is with herd immunity. Okay? He said he doesn't work for the government, so he can speak his mind. He used to be with the Rockefeller University. I think he's retired now. But that guy would be also a great interview. We need perspective, and I agree with Tom Quinn that there are elements in government that want to push not only an agenda, they want to get money. And if you code somebody COVID-19 and you get more money, that's a clear case of not bias. What's the word I'm looking at? You got an incentive to do something that might not be right, or accurate. So let's pay attention. Let's watch the West Coast. Numbers did not shoot up here like they said. Total numbers are going down, and there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. In fact, as Dr. Shiva said, we need vitamin D, sunshine, vitamin A, vitamin C. Nutrition, build your immune system. That's what's going to beat this thing ultimately.
Dr. Shiva said we should all go and just forget about any kind of quarantine or anything. We should forget about social distancing. We should take some vitamins, and then we should all go give each other hugs. That's pretty much the synopsis of what he's recommending.
I don't agree with that. Rory, surely you don't agree with that.
I'm going to take my vitamins, I'm going to eat an Ebola burrito, and then I'm going to snort some anthrax.
Okay, Shanti, just a second. I didn't hear him say that. That's why it'd be good to have him on. I'd like to hear it directly. I think MZ would do a great interview with them next Saturday. The point is, a strong immune system beats this thing. The most people that are dying are those with comorbidities. They're already sick. The average age in Italy is 80. The average age of death in Italy is 80. 97 to 98% of the people that get this beat it. And they also know now that the ventilators could be causing more trouble than they're helping, okay? Because if you go on the ventilator and you've got this, 20% chance you're coming out alive. Okay,
Rory,
so anyway,
thank you for calling. I really appreciate it, okay? Take next. That's Don and Salinas. We're creating, not solving problems. Go ahead, Don.
That's my take on it. You know, there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what we're doing with the homeless is patently stupid. You know, we don't have a corona problem with the homeless. They're not massively dying from the corona right now. They naturally socially distance from each other. They're out in the fresh air and sunshine. They're not getting the corona. Now, if you bunch them all up in a hotel room and you unleash the corona on them, you're going to have the same problem we're having with nursing homes. Massive people getting sick from the corona, and since they're not the healthiest part of our population, they'll massively die. What are we doing? This is patently stupid. Why are we doing this?
I wish Keith McHenry was on the phone so I could put you on with him.
Well, do you know why they're doing this? Because everybody wants to do something with the homeless, and now they think there's big money floating around. Now let's put them all in hotels. This is the worst time to put them in a hotel. Put them in a hotel when times are good, when there isn't a virus flying around that if you got a bunch of people cooped up in a hotel, it's going to kill them off. I mean, you know, use your head. If I was a homeless, I'd rather sit in my car than bunched up with a bunch of others. And one last thing, you were asking what positive thing can we do for this.
Yeah, somehow,
for this,
so much for that topic that got hijacked.
Well,
Jeez.
well, I've got a positive thing, and this goes out to the city of Santa Cruz, the county of Santa Cruz, the state of California. Open the damn beaches and parks, you sniveling cowards. We need fresh air, too. We need to get out in the sunshine, too. And unless we're licking the picnic tables, we're not going to get corona by going out into the country.
And I think the picnic tables have been vacant for so long, I think that you can even get away with licking the picnic tables. Thank you, Don. Danny and Soledad, ideas for being decent. Oh, we might be coming back to the original topic of this program. Go ahead, Danny. Danny. Oh, you know what? I didn't put him on, so it's my fault. Danny,
hey,
now
there
you're
you are.
Okay, good.
Yeah, hey, gentlemen, thank you. The idea that came up in the first hour about discriminating against people for whatever reason, I kind of see that xenophobia popping up, but I think the form is going to take it. I see the creation of two classes of citizens. One is going to be deemed essential, and the other is going to be non-essential. And I don't like the way that's going because once you're deemed non-essential, that's going to lead you out of the picture and open for discrimination. So I think we all have to be vigilant of where this is all going and kind of speak up, and let people know, hey, this is the line and you don't cross it. You know what I mean? So just be vigilant. And something else I also wanted to bring up is this whole the way they're using the terminology, and like we're all in this together and embracing social distancing. It's kind of ironic. It sounds like the whole idea of like war is peace, because we're in this together, but we're being told to separate. And I heard somebody say, we're flattening the curve because we're embracing social distancing, and it's kind of a contradiction. Embracing and social distancing, they're playing with us here. So you guys have a good day.
Thank you, Danny. That was very, very thoughtful. Who's next? Would it be, I don't know who it is, but who is this?
Yes, Dan, Pacific Grove. One very brief comment. We are not in a state of martial law.
Yeah, we covered that already. Yeah.
Well, martial law exists when civil authority law is suspended.
I know. It's true. You must have missed that
Didn't
part.
hear it mentioned. Okay.
Okay, there you go. So, listen, we have a minute and a half left. Let's have Olson and Jonty, our special guests during this program, each make a 30-second closing statement. Go ahead, Olson.
Life is good. Keep your head in the clouds and smile a lot, and we'll make it through this just fine. What KSCO always needs is more sunshine and fresh air. Life will be good.
You have 15 more seconds, but I guess you can give that to Jonty.
Sure.
Jonty, quick.
I think that in every adversity, there's opportunities, and we get to find out a lot about who we are. And I hope that our listening audience finds out a little bit about who KSCO is, because I know personally, and in my heart, and I strongly believe and feel it in the hearts of the people that I work with, we're here to take care of our community.
Okay, so we'll try to make this the topic next week and see if we can stick to it. Thanks, guys. That's it for this week. See you all next week.
That's all, folks.
You are listening to